All right, you power women. Whenever you are ready, we are rocking and rolling. Speak to the back of the room.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, how y'all doing today?
Good.
Welcome to this year's Music Biz 2018, held here in Springfield, Missouri, put on by Music Business Association. My name is Hannah Osla, and I'm a representative of Manhead Merch. Today, we're going to be talking to you guys on how to maximize your merchandise sales for a mid-level artist or band. So today, my team here and I, we're going to give you the best presentation we can possible on what to sell and how to sell it. So like I said, my name's Hannah Osla, and I'm the general manager of Manhead Merch.
My name is Grace Murray, and I am the vice president of sales.
My name is Madison Vickers, and I'm the merch manager.
I'm Brandy Elgard, and I'm the e-commerce coordinator.
I'm Michaela Barnes, and I'm the tour manager.
So to get you guys a little bit more acquainted with our company, this is a short list of a few bands and artists that we represent. We do all of the distribution and supplying for their merchandise. It goes to their venues. We supply to retailers, and a list of other services that we will let you guys know about later in the presentation. So today, talking about our learning objectives. So we're going to first talk about how to secure a merch supplier and how to figure out what your fans want, which I will be covering. Then I'm going to pass it over to Grace to talk about how to determine what sells and what your fans want, and what's selling for your artists and what your fans are looking for. Then Michaela's going to come in and talk about how to sell in person at your shows. And Brandy's going to come in and talk about e-commerce and how to sell online. And then Madison's going to wrap up the presentation on how to regulate your payments at a show. So like I said, to start off, we're going to talk about securing your merch supplier. So first things you want to do, take 3 simple, easy steps. We're going to talk about picking a supplier, what services they offer, and what their distribution to venues and retailers looks like. So here's a short list of merch suppliers that we found are the most effective in the game right now. Us being one of them, Manhead Merch. We represent a lot of larger artists. We represent a lot of smaller artists as well. We go from superstars from Panic at the Disco all the way down to mid-level artists like Matt and Kim, who are selling around 200,000 albums per album drop. Warner Music Group's one of the biggest music companies in the industry right now, and they have a number of labels underneath them. They go and, for a lot of their artists that they have signed, actually distribute and supply all of their own merch as well. And then Cinderblock Merch is another distribution company, a lot like us, but they take a lot more time with smaller and mid-level artists. So there's a number of services that can come from each of these different retailers or different suppliers and distributors. So this is a list of our services that we provide here at Manhead. So we start with retailing, licensing, e-commerce, tour merchandising, and product design. And I know some of you out in the audience today are road managers and tour managers, and some of you are looking at representing larger artists like Panic at the Disco and Weezer and people like that. And in that situation, we know that you probably have a whole team of merchandise. You have a whole merch team behind you, somebody that's running your e-commerce platform, somebody that is designing all of your products, somebody that's pushing those things to venues, to retailers, and getting your name out there. But if you're like us and you're representing someone smaller like Two Door Cinema Club or Matt and Kim, we would highly recommend you picking one of these retailers and distributors to take your merchandise and make that easier on you. Instead of taking all of your time focusing on working your merch table, standing at your merch stand, you can really focus all of your time on managing your tour, managing the road, your crew, your artists, and everything like that. From there, we're going to talk about distribution. So I came up with 3 pretty simple questions that I think you should cover when deciding whether or not your artist wants their merch in a retailer. So first one, does your artist want their merch in a retail location? The next one is, does your merch supplier have a standing record with those retailers? So for us at Manhead, we have very good relationships with stores like Hot Topic, Spencer's, Zumiez, Kohl's, and we're pushing a lot of our artist merch into those retail locations. So you want to think to yourself, for the last question, does your artist have a large enough following to actually make a profit off of putting your merchandise in a retail location? So if you're out there, if you're a mid-level artist and you're really, really, really depending on your merchandise making a lot of your money, and you're really trying to make a bang for your buck, and you're going, show to show on that profit. You don't want to waste that money that you do have trying to put your merchandise into retailers where you might make a loss because nobody really knows your name. So now we're going to talk about connecting with your fans and surveying your audience. One of our, what's hipping in with the kids these days is social media. So we found the most effective ways to survey your audience is using Twitter polls and Instagram polls. Now, Instagram, you can use more than one function, which we think is super, super helpful for you. You can use your polls, your slider, and your ask function. So like we said, your fans are what matters most. They're the ones buying your merch. They're the ones that are making you that money, and they're the ones who you're trying to impress. So everything that they say, you need to take to heart and value their opinion. So we're going to talk about Instagram stories now. Like I said, it's a super easy way to survey your followers. It's the easiest way to receive feedback. We like Instagram stories here at Manheim Merch a lot more than we prefer Twitter polls, just because of the fact that when you post a story, you can see pictures and images side by side and give your fans the opportunities to vote on each of those photos. You can give them the opportunity to vote on designs, colors, and a number of different other things that go in when you're designing your merch. So here's some examples of some very easy polls that we made really quick. First one right here, we're talking design for design. So top and bottom, which one you prefer, Panic at the Disco. Then over here on the left, we have two different colors for Matt and Kim. So now I'm going to do a quick demonstration on how to show you guys how Twitter polls work. Like I said, you're only getting one form of feedback. Your answers are anonymous, and it's a bit different than an Instagram poll. So you want to take your time, probably put your time investment into an Instagram poll because you're seeing who's voting, you're seeing what fans are viewing. Whereas, like I said, Twitter polls are anonymous. Pictures can't be shown, and you have to create a whole thread of tweets to to give your fans that options on what to vote for. So, I'll show you guys how to make a Twitter poll really quick. So if you just go here, Twitter, really easy. Here's we're doing ours for Two Door Cinema Club. So you're just gonna compose a tweet right here, and you have this option that says add a poll. So we're gonna just add a poll in. You can do up to two, minimum is 2 choices, but you can do up to 4. So we're gonna put all 4 in. So we're just gonna ask, what do you guys want to see in our next merch drop? So we're gonna come up with, anybody in the crowd, what do you wanna see? What's your favorite merch to buy?
Dad hats.
Yep, love that. Anybody else?
Baseball teams.
Love that. Anybody else?
Hoodie.
Hoodies? Last one? Oh, fanny pack. Okay, I like that. Okay, so from here you can change your polling to multiple days, add some hours in. Obviously you put minutes in there too, but we're gonna leave it as a day because that's your typical length. Gives your fans time to see your tweet, gives your fans time for it to circulate around and give you more exposure. So we're gonna send that on out. Just quick refresh. And there it is right there. And then it gives our followers the opportunity to vote on those different options that we have. So we're gonna go back over to your presentation. We're gonna go to our next slide. So I want you guys to all pull your phones and head over to Instagram. Give us a follow over at Two Door Cinema C, and we have a bunch of polls on our stories that we would love for you guys to vote in. Give us some feedback on our designs that we just put out. So yeah, go ahead. Pick your favorites. Let us know what you want to see next. All right, anybody that's already voted, do you have a favorite t-shirt that you've seen so far? Anybody in the crowd? Long sleeve one, that's one of my favorites too. Anybody else?
I like the white tee on the bottom, silver.
Beautiful, thank you. All right, guys, well, that wraps it up for my portion of the presentation. We hope you learned a little bit more about supplying your merchandise and how to survey your fans. So now I'm gonna pass on over to Grace, and she's gonna talk about sales as a strategy.
Thank you, Hannah. All right, so my name is Grace Murray, and I am the Vice President of Sales. And today I will be talking to you a little bit about sales as a strategy, specifically what tactics you can use to make a sale. So there are 6 different ways that you can encourage a purchase. First, you can show that purchases are reciprocal, that they're a back and forth exchange. Second, you can make your merchandise scarce. Providing less gives you more opportunity. Third, you can be an authority and show your expertise. Fourth, you can encourage consistency or commitment from your fans. Fifth, you can make people like you, which I know you guys are riveted about that one. We will have thorough notes. And sixth, you can show strength in numbers by showing that many people are purchasing your merch. So first, let's talk about how purchases are reciprocal. Purchases, especially merch, are the way that fans can thank the artist for their experience. What they're doing when they buy your merchandise is saying, this has been amazing, I love your music, I love your work, I love the show that you just put on, and I want to thank you. So there's two different ways that you can show and continue to prove that you appreciate and recognize that reciprocal exchange. And that is by showing results and giving small extras. So let's talk about showing results. When you're showing results for a purchase as being reciprocal, you are thanking the fans for their business. You are consistently and constantly saying, thank you, we appreciate you, we love your business, and you are supporting us. That leads me to my next point. Tell them where the money spent on merch is going. Many people know that their merch is going in general towards the artist and their work, but tell them specifically what this is going towards and make them feel good about helping you. Tell them it's going towards transportation, towards the artist's food, their hotel, even making more music or the next album that they're going to put out. Mentioning the merchandise at least 3 times per show from stage as well, thanking them, letting them know what it goes towards, is a really good golden rule to abide by for your artist so that they can increase those merch sales. And then that second example I gave was giving small extras, including small extras with purchases such as stickers, magnets, buttons, and links to music in a QR code or some other small card. It makes the fans feel as if they should buy more and continue that reciprocal exchange. Second, let's talk about making merchandise scarce. Now, this sounds a little bit counterintuitive. Usually you want to provide as much opportunity to your fans as possible, but in a way, making merchandise scarce by providing less makes people feel as if it has more value. There's 2 different ways, or in fact 3 different ways you can do this, by selling limited edition or exclusive merchandise and rotating your merchandise. So let's talk about limited edition and exclusive merch. These are 2 separate things, but one item can in fact be both, or one or the other. Limited edition is based on the number of inventory you have. Limited edition merch says we have this many items, and when those items run out, they're gone. That idea of I have to get it now forces a purchase from the fan and makes them believe that it has a lot of value because it's only this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Second is exclusive merch. Exclusive merch is more so restricted to a specific event, a specific theme, a specific time. And those can be for festivals such as Coachella or things of that nature. But again, things can be both or they can be one or the other. And then second for making merchandise scarce is rotation. Rotating merch, if you are a mid-level artist, should be relatively easy financially. And you should be doing this for 2 different reasons. Seasons, for example, in the winter, beanies may sell better than baseball caps, or for tours and albums, which is fitting the themes and the aesthetic with each new tour and new album and rotating that merchandise so that you have people who continually make purchases. Third, we're going to talk about being an authority. People buy from people that they trust. They want to know that you know what you're doing whenever they come to your merch table. And so there are 2 different ways that you can do this. It is by designating a merchandise seller and appearing uniform. So appearing uniform, it is a visual cue of authority. It can be consistent, relatable, and professional. For example, we have for Two Door Cinema Club here. You would be wearing an example of their merch shirt to show what it looks like. Some simple black jeans and comfortable shoes. You'll be on your feet a lot, and you will want to be as consistent as possible. Fourth, let's talk about encouraging consistency. What I mean by encouraging consistency is that you want commitments from your fans. Rather than having someone walk by your merch table and say, I know that's available online, I'll think about it, maybe I'll make a purchase, maybe not, let's see later. What you want them to do is make that commitment as much as possible and give them opportunities to decide right now. There are two different examples that we have today in which someone can have an opportunity to make a commitment to be consistent with. The first is ordering from online while in person. Hopefully this would be a good problem to have, but if you run out of stock of a certain size or a certain design of a merch item, you should have a laptop or some other type of device in which someone can make that purchasing decision and say, okay, I'll use your iPad right now, to go ahead and make that purchase so that the order is done and it'll be there whenever I get back to my hometown or delivered pretty soon. That way they make the purchasing decision right there. A kind of flip side opposite of that is an app called Sidestep. Sidestep is a partner with Manhead Merch that does kind of the opposite thing in a very consistent and a very convenient way for both fans and for merch people. Sidestep offers the idea of pre-ordering merchandise online that you can then pick up at the event. So say you don't want to wait in the merch lines, you don't want to spend a lot of time deciding what you want to see your options ahead of time. You can go ahead and pick those, pick the sizes, know that it will be available, and then you are both committed as a fan to one, going to the event, and two, buying that merchandise because the order is already made. It's very convenient for both fans and for merchandise people and consistently commits those fans to providing those opportunities. Fifth, and this is an important one, make people like you. I know, it's hard, it's rough, but I'm gonna give you the tips and tricks. People buy from people that they like. People buy from people that they relate to. So whenever you are, say you're a fan and you're going up to a merch table, you want to see something in that person that maybe you see in yourself and say, hey, this person knows what I like. They might kind of have common interests with me, and they're going to help me make the best buying decisions for myself with this merchandise. And there are three key ways to do that. The first is finding a commonality, like we said, relating to the other person, complimenting the fan, and working together towards a goal. So I'm just going to go over a couple of examples for those three different implements that we can do for making people like you. First being commonality. So if someone was to say be at a Panic at the Disco concert and they're wearing some type of merchandise that talks about Pray for the Wicked, or maybe they're referencing the album, maybe if you notice that as a merch person, you see them and you say, oh, hey, that's my favorite album too, or I love this specific track from that album. Give them something to relate to with you in order to kind of form a connection before they make those purchases. Second is compliments, and this is an easy one. You can say something like, wow, I love your style. Oh my gosh, I love the way you dyed your hair. It looks really good. Or something along the lines of, oh, I noticed you guys were dancing up at the front row and you guys are going 100%. I really appreciate it. Something that lets them feel good about themselves. And then third is working together towards a goal. This is basic good customer service in the sense that if a problem comes up while they are making their purchases, you can say something rather than, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have that in your size, that's too bad. You can say, oh, we don't have this in your size, but let me see what I can do for you. You are working with them towards something, and it makes them feel as if you're more connected and you have the best interest at heart for them. Lastly, let's talk about showing strength in numbers. What I mean by showing strength in numbers is that people do what others do. When people see that the majority of people at a concert or at an event are making purchases or are going to buy a specific item, they think, that's probably a good idea. So there are three different ways in which we can show people the strength in numbers of how many people are purchasing merch and giving them the idea that they should do it as well. And those three examples are pointing out the number of sales. What I mean by that is just, here's an example. Say you are about halfway through a show or between acts and you notice that you sold about 45 CDs. Have the artist mention that. Have the artist have a little slip of paper or something that says how many they've sold. Go up on stage and say, wow, you guys have bought 45 of our albums. We've had 45 people come in here and buy CDs. We really appreciate that. Let's see, we have 55 left. Let's see if we can sell them out the rest of the night. I know there's that many people here, and encourage that decision. The second is to point out individual purchasers. Let's say you have someone that comes in and they're buying hoodies, they're buying crew necks, they're buying the vinyl. They spend maybe over $100 just at your merch table. Maybe write down their name, find out what their hometown is, find out where they're coming from, what their favorite song is from the show, and then point them out. Say, hey, I know Michaela. She just bought $100 over at our merch table. We really appreciate her. She bought the vinyl. She's super excited. What an awesome fan. We really appreciate fans like Michaela. And it makes people feel special, and it makes people feel as if, oh, this person's buying that. A lot of people are doing that. I should do it as well. And then lastly is to make the merch table visible. You want people to see when they're walking around, when they're going to in between acts and kind of standing around. You want them to see a large number of people at the merch table. You want the merch table to be inviting and visible and show that many people are attracted to this area and are having fun at this area in order to bring more people together. And I'll just pause here because if we have any questions so far on those 6 principles. No? Well, awesome. I will transition with making merch tables visible and making merch tables exciting. Michaela here is going to talk a little bit about how in-person sales and merch tables can really be maximized and strategized for success.
Hi guys, I'm Michaela. I'm the tour coordinator for Manhead. I want to thank you guys for all coming out here. So I'm going to be talking to you about in-person sales. So when you're on the road and you're doing sales at the table. The 6 main ways to maximize sales are by display, location, inventory, social media marketing, city exclusive merch, and pop-up shops. Okay. And the first 4 ways to upgrade your merch table, it's really important to have a clear, able to see in good light, good lit table.
Well-lit table.
Well-lit table, thank you. But the most important thing is to have clear signage. So down here, and then you can also see how it says to stack high. So instead of stacking wide where people see everything, if you stack high, you can see above where people are standing in line. Okay, and so we have a little example of a good and a bad merch table. So which one do you guys think is a good merch table and a bad merch table? And explain why.
Left is good because it's stacked high.
Anything else that makes it good or makes that side bad?
It's all visible on the left side, like you can see the front of every shirt and every.
When people are standing in line, they're not going to see anything if they're standing in line at the table on the right.
Yeah, so you have the shirts that are hanging down right there. And so we brought in 2 tables of good and bad merch tables. If you guys want to come up here and look, you can see what we have on display, see, you guys can come up. Yeah, go check it out. You can take a piece of candy while you're up here.
Go buy some merch. Go buy our merch.
See which one is more appealing, which one that you would want to buy merch from.
And if you guys notice, a few of the artists that we do present are featured on the table over here on your left.
Yeah, so we do represent this band and this band and a couple up here. So you can see how this is really off-putting. You don't really want to come to a merch table and see some ripped, tattered sheet with stuff hanging on the ground and only a couple different items. Whereas this one over here has a background. There's stuff stacked as high as possible. There's some hats, there's vinyl, there's signed CDs, there's a lot of variety that you can get here. And you can tell how important selling your merch is because in 2016, the sales of music merch hit 3.1 billion, which was a 10% increase from the previous year. And the majority of artists nowadays are making all of their, or most of their revenue from touring and merchandise. So another way to maximize your merch sales is to maximize traffic to your merch table. And this can be done in a couple different ways. The main way is to put your table where there's the most foot traffic. And you can see there's a little diagram here of a concert venue. There's the stage, and this is the main entrance and exit. So you could either put your merch table here or here, and it would be great to have clear signage put up right there, or if you couldn't put your table there based on what the venue says, you could put a sign there that says merch table around the other side and have the merch table there. The three main times that merch is bought is when you're entering, exiting, and then during intermission. So if there's like encore, like in between acts or something like that. And the last thing is to not to put your table near the stage. That can be really intimidating to other people, and you can't hear. You wouldn't be able to hear very well, like how much the t-shirt is or what size they have left for this shirt. And another way is to keep track of inventory. On the side, you can see there's a little inventory spreadsheet that has different sizes of different shirts and other CDs, vinyl, and then it has all the counts on the side. And so the most common way that artists do this, usually the artists do it if it's a mid-level or they have someone for their tour, they use Excel spreadsheets. And that way you don't have to rely on mental math, so you're not taking counts every time someone's buying a shirt, or if they buy a small, you have to write down the small. And so you'll do the inventory after every show to keep it all updated, and then you can use that to help you by reordering. Okay, the next thing is how to market your merch on social media. This is a really simple way to get new ideas out there. Like Hannah talked about surveying. You can use that to ask your fans what they want to see. And then, like what the Naked and Famous did, they said the first 20 people in line for our show tonight will get a free poster, so go get a ticket. If you do that, that's another incentive to have people coming to your show, buying merch. Once they're in there, they're much more likely to buy merch. And so you can do those giveaways on Twitter, Instagram, whatever social media that you guys want. And another really important part about merch is city exclusive merch. This has been something that's popping up recently. And city exclusive merch creates an experience rather than an event. So when you go to a show and you had such a great time, and you can go buy that poster that has that artist, that venue, and that specific date, and you'll always have something to commemorate that. And so from an article, there was a hard rock band that started selling city exclusive merch to their fans, and they increased their profits by quite a bit, and they grew like a great connection with their fans. Last thing I'm going to talk about is pop-up shops. So if you guys don't know, a pop-up shop is a unique opportunity for a limited time that allows fans to listen to music or buy new merchandise. And there's two different types. So there's invite only, and then there's some that are open to public. The invite only are usually like giveaway kind of things where like artists put out a poll or something like that, and certain people are picked to go to the pop-up store. Or there's open to public where I think there's Rolling Stone, and I think that one was Kanye West. And Kanye West, he had his open to public, and there's people lined out there like a day before, and he claims to have made over $1 million in sales from just 2 days. So $1 million in your merch sales could do incredible things. And so I hope you guys learned a lot from that. I'm going to hand it off to Brandy, and she's going to talk to you about online sales.
All right. Well, like she said, my name is Brandy, and I am the e-commerce coordinator here for Manhead Merch. And I'm going to talk to you about online sales and e-commerce, things like that. All right, so first you need to secure your e-commerce platform. Things you should look for when you're doing that is kind of what services they offer for you. Are they going to manage that website for you, or is it going to be more of, you know, you just kind of use that platform and you manage that in-house. So them managing it for you. I picked a few platforms here to discuss and kind of compare and contrast. The first one is Neva, and then the second is Warner Music Group, and then of course Manhead Merch. All right, Neva. They advertise that they are the #1 e-commerce platform for generating revenue. They say that their website is 100% customizable, so you can match their your brand with like your website, and everything will look kind of cohesive with your kind of aesthetic of what maybe that tour is, things like that. They also provide a back office program, so you can see what t-shirt is generating the most money for you, whether even if it's a hoodie too, you can kind of see that. And you can also tell whether you need to order more of that product too. That kind of goes along with keeping your inventory up to date, which Michaela kind of talked about, keeping inventory. The great thing about Neva, I will say, is that there's no long-term contract needed. You can just pay month by month. So you can get out at any time if it's not working for you, or if you want to upgrade to something a little bit better. Next is Warner Music Group. They are one of the, also like one of the best. They build and operate your store for you, so it's really not something you have to worry about. Sorry, I have a touch of bronchitis. So they, hang on, let me restart that. They build and operate your store for you, so you really don't have to worry about it. It's kind of an out-of-house thing, that they handle all of that. They also develop campaigns to help you maximize your revenue, which is what you want to do, since a lot of your money these days kind of comes from your merch sales. I believe I read somewhere that like 30% of a tour's revenue comes from tour merch, which is kind of cool. And then just like Neva, they have that back office capability. And you're going to see that a lot. That a lot of these platforms do have similar offerings, but you're going to see here how we stand out a little bit. You can customize your store to your brand just like in Warner Music Group with us. We have that back office capability, just like the two others stated previously. The things that we do have, though, is that full-time customer service kind of hotline if you're having any trouble with your website, things like that. If you notice some error somewhere, things like that, you contact us and we'll handle it for you. We also have smartphone and search engine optimization, which basically just means that you know, your website's going to work on a smartphone just as well it is a search engine. It is going to work on Safari just as well it is Chrome. Also with Manhead Merch, we have a partnership with Sidestep that Grace talked about a little bit. You can order, it's an app, and fans can order online before the show at any time, and then they can pick up that merch the day of the show, which doesn't really take away the experience that sometimes online stores can of buying that merch in person and creating that, still having that kind of adrenaline rushing while you're kind of there in the moment purchasing your item. But the best thing is that you can still enjoy the show without having to worry about that line at the merch table. But they do also offer, I forgot to mention, they do offer like delivery if you want to order like after the show, or maybe it's too late in the show to get it the same day. All right, now let's talk about how to effectively use that online store. On that online store, you should always have general merch that's not related to the tour, just things that you can have all the time. That's not, you know, maybe it doesn't have your latest album, just kind of says your band's name. It's also good to have bundles. example is like a discount bundle. You can use these at the end of a tour with like your leftover merch. But when you do that, you need to make sure you price your inventory like high enough that you can offer a discount. So an example of that would be having a CD for like $15, but then offering 2 CDs for like $20. You're still making money, but you're not losing money when you're selling 2. Another kind of a bundle is a gift with a purchase. You can do that, but typically, obviously, with your online store, you oh, there it is. A good example of that is like My Chemical Romance. They did this with their online store, I believe, back in May. They had this little toy poly resin, I believe, was the material it was made of, like gun, like and mask too, that they had with like if you shopped on their online store and you bought X amount of dollars of merchandise, you got that with your order. It sold out within like 2 weeks after they posted this like promotion, which is really cool. It helps generate revenue for your tour if it's like just starting out. Again, that helps with your leftover merch too with those discounted bundles. All right, let's wrap it up here with promo codes for your online store. We at Manhead do not recommend using promo codes after like every single show because fans will wait and go buy their merch online instead of in the stores, and that kind of takes away of that adrenaline rush experience that they have kind of in person. They might make less impulse buys, things like that. We recommend using promo codes like at the end of your tour after it's all said and done, and this helps also with that inventory turnover, getting that stock out of your warehouse or whatever. All right, thank you for bearing with my cold, bronchitis. Does anyone have any questions for me while I pass it off to Madison?
Is your bronchitis contagious?
I'm not on antibiotics, so maybe.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much. So, my name is Madison Vickers, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about payment options at shows. I hope you guys have been enjoying the conference so far. Okay, so here's a little overview of what I'm going to be talking about. So first I'm going to be talking about pricing of your merchandise. That's the first thing you need to determine before we talk about what payment options to use. We're going to be talking about forms of payment you should not use when you're selling in person at your shows, forms of payment you should use, and then the formatting of your receipts. So pricing. This can be a little bit tricky when you price your items, but it is a very, very important aspect of your brand. You never want to price too high because you run the risk of people not buying your items, but you also don't want to price too low because people might undermine your brand and not put trust in it and think that they don't have good quality. So when you're pricing, it says figure out what price you can afford to sell at while making a profit and what price potential buyers are willing to buy at. And the average t-shirt price for a mid-level artist is $16 to $27. So here is a little formula that you're going to use when you're determining your price of your items. You're going to take the production cost times 2, which gives you your wholesale price, and then take your wholesale price times 2, which gives you your retail price. So say that you are creating t-shirts, and that one t-shirt is going to be $6 to produce. Then you're going to multiply that by 2, which gives you 12, and then 12 times 2 would be 24. But that is not your final price. You still have to determine taxes before you come up with your final price. So you need to account for taxes before determining your final merchandise price. Taxes can change from state and city, so you really need to look at all of that before your tour starts and figure all of that out ahead of time and stay up to date on the laws and regulations that go with that. Okay, so for example, we had $24 for that price on the last slide. In Springfield, the sales tax rate is 8.100%. So the way you would calculate this would be if your item is priced at $24 and sales tax is 8.100%, you convert the sales tax into decimal form, and multiply the two numbers. So basically, you're always going to round up. That final answer is not $26, but you need to round up so that you know that you're making enough money and you're not undercharging and not making enough revenue, basically. All right. Does anybody have questions about pricing before we move on to the payment methods that you should not use? So definitely don't use checks or Venmo for a mid-level artist show. So with checks, it's completely unreliable. It's definitely going to take too long. I can't even imagine being at a show. You guys know how like concerts are extremely fast-paced, especially when after the concert, everyone's trying to leave, they're crowding around the merch table, you're elbowing through people. If everyone's trying to fill out a check at the merch table when that's happening, we would be there all night long. I mean, there's just no way that it'd even be possible. So you just need to go ahead and determine ahead of time that checks are probably not a good idea. With Venmo, some smaller artists can use this, but honestly, Venmo was created for friends. I mean, it was created to send money to your friend that bought you food, or send money to, you know, they had to pick something up for you. It wasn't necessarily created for people that you don't trust. So, I mean, depending on how small the artist is, you can really determine if you would like to use Venmo or not. But for mid-level artists and touring, we definitely do not recommend it here at Manhead Merch. So forms of payment that you should use are Cash and Square Reader. Cash, it's a little bit trickier than Square because you need to make sure that you have enough change on hand at all times. You need to check before each show. You need to calculate all this out before the tour begins. You need to figure out how much merch you're going to set up at your tables, and then account for, you know, what bills people are going to give you. Are you going to accept $100 bills, $50 bills, or just 20s? That's really going to be all determined by you. I mean, really, you need to decide all that beforehand. So with Square, the account is free. It's around $6.36 on Amazon, so it might be more expensive or less expensive elsewhere. And then that's for the actual Square Reader, the physical thing that you hook into your iPad or phone. And then it's easy to use, it's customizable, and they get 2.75% of each purchase, sorry. So that's definitely the form of payment that we highly recommend here at Manhead Merch. So I'm going to show you guys a little video on how exactly Square works. I apologize.
Square Reader allows you to accept credit and debit cards from anywhere with your smartphone or tablet device. Let's get you started with Square. Download the Square Register app to your Apple or Android device and create your free account. There are no contracts or long-term commitments. To get started, you'll need your legal name, date of birth, phone number, home address, and a valid form of government-issued ID, such as a driver's license, Medicare card, or passport. You'll also have the option to link your bank account information so you know where to deposit your payments. To accept a payment, plug Square Reader into your headphone jack. Select what you'd like to sell or enter a custom amount, then insert the card into Square Reader's secure chip card slot. Your customer will be prompted to enter their PIN securely on screen. You can then choose to send your customer an email or SMS receipt. And that's it. Best of all, your money is sent directly to your own bank account, so you get paid fast. Get your questions answered online. Visit square.com/help and search for card payments.
Okay, so like the video said, another plus of Square is that it doesn't have any like long-term fees or contracts or anything, so that is good. Does anyone have any questions about Square before I move on? Okay, so here at Manhead Merch, this is how we suggest that you set up your Square store. It's definitely easier to set up buttons ahead of time for different merch items. So you want to figure that all out before your tour begins, of course, and have a button for hats, a button for t-shirts, a button for crew necks, and then you would just input that information of how much they cost and everything ahead of time, rather than typing in, this person just spent $37.50 on a shirt, and like having to calculate all that out yourself, because that might take too long and be a little confusing. Also, we do not suggest that you bundle items. So what I mean by bundling items on your Square store is that you have option 1, a hat and a shirt, option 2, a CD and a crew neck. That might be a little more confusing for your employees, rather than just having buttons and being able to press, oh, look, I can see that they have a hat and shirt, and just click those 2 buttons and go. It's going to be way easier to memorize. I mean, you won't have to memorize anything, but you should also make sure that your employees familiarize themselves with the Square store before the tour begins. Know exactly where the buttons are on the Square store. That way you can get people out of those, arena quickly, and that way things just go easier for you. So earlier I talked about taxes and accounting for taxes before you price your items. Now that I've introduced you to Square Store, I'd like to show you how to set up your taxes within your Square Store.
You can add taxes to individual items or entire sales. Go to Items in your Square dashboard. Click Taxes, then Create Tax. Enter the tax information. You can choose to add tax to item price, which adds the tax as a separate line item to the price, or include tax in item price, which shows one amount, the combined sales tax and item price. Toggle Enable Tax On, then click Save. To select the item you'd like to apply a specific tax to, go to your item library, click the item, click the Taxes box, then select the tax. When it comes time to check out a customer, all your taxes will be applied automatically. You can tap Tax to view all tax rates applied to the current sale. Tap the red X icon to remove the tax rate from applicable items within the sale. To learn more about using your Square Register, watch our other videos or go to square.com/register-setup.
So like you can see in the video, it's extremely easy. I think when you say the word taxes, people tend to run the opposite way because numbers and things of that nature, but it's extremely easy to use on the Square store. So I definitely suggest that you guys use that. I'm going to end here today on how to format your receipts when you're using Square. The easiest way is to have people input their phone numbers. Like Brandy mentioned earlier, you definitely should not use promo codes after shows, because if people get used to you guys doing that, then they're not going to buy in person, and they're just going to assume that they can buy it for cheaper online, or order it online then. So we do suggest, though, if you want people to have an incentive to buy at your shows, you say, hey, if you input your phone number, we'll send you the receipt, and we'll also send you a promo code to buy something in our online store. So it's kind of thanking them for buying something there and then giving them a coupon to buy again, which would probably work. They can also opt out of getting a receipt on Square Store, and email is an option but not necessarily suggested. You can always have it on there, but people might not take advantage of it because it takes longer to type in your email than your phone number. And then printed receipts are definitely possible, but an unnecessary cost. I don't think that anybody's going to walk around with a printed receipt after a show anyway. I think everything's gone so digital, it's a lot easier to get it sent to your text message. So, in closing, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much, and I'm going to let Hannah close afterwards.
All right, guys, we just want to thank you all for coming out today and spending some time with us here at the Music Biz Conference. And to end today, we're going to play a quick game of Kahoot. So, everybody pull your phone.
There you
Ready? Here we go. All right, start off real easy. What company do we represent? Nice.
So we got some smart ones.
All right, here we go next. What is the definition of a limited edition merchandise?
All right, I mean, very close. It's based on inventory. Exclusive merchandise is the one where it is based around inventories.
All right, here we go. Next one. Which is not a way to upgrade your merch table? Nice. Awesome.
Who got
Way to go,
that
guys.
wrong? That's all I wanna know. Who got that wrong?
All right. Second last question. What app are we partnered with?
Yeah, the trickery.
So trickery.
I got it right.
That was the
Okay.
time. All right.
Okay.
All right. It was Sidestep. It's the one we partnered with to pre-order merch to be sent to the merch table on the shows. And here's our last one to finish off today. What payment method do we recommend? Nice.
People drop down, it seems like.
All right, there we go.
Bo, where you at?
Nice. All right, we just wanted, again, like we said, we just wanted to thank you guys so much for coming out today, and we hope that you have a great time with the rest of your time here at Basic Biz 2018.
Yes, thanks, everyone.
Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions about content, ladies and gentlemen? Anything you want to know more about?